What up? I'm Bea and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things true crime and current events. Hope you're having a great day today. We're gonna do another reaction video today. I did my first one last week. It got a lot of comments on it. People had strong opinions, but most of them were incredibly kind and respectful and nice, and so I love that. If you left even if you're not agreeing with me, if you left a respectful comment sharing your opinion, thank you. I love that. I love hearing other people's opinions and points of view, and so I really appreciate when you interact with me like that. And after I put that video out, just seeing how many people had an opinion on it, I did also put a poll on my community tab saying, did you guys like this? Should we do more? And so many of you said, yes, let's do more reaction videos. So today we're going to be reacting to Girl Defined. On my last live, I kind of asked the people who were there what I should react to, what do we think, and this was the general consensus. Now, before I get into it, this is going to be just kind of a general disclaimer for not only my reaction videos, but pretty much all of my videos in general, excluding Crafty Crimes. These videos, anytime I'm sharing my opinion, it's not to be hateful, it's not to be judgy, it's not because I ever want to bring anyone down or cause anyone to fail or try and hurt anyone. It's not ever something that I'm doing with malicious intent. I am just sharing my opinion, I'm sharing my perspective, and I think in a lot of cases, I'm sharing the perspective that a lot of people share. And if I ever say anything that is hateful, that crosses a line, definitely feel free to call me out on it and we'll have a conversation. But I just want everyone to know going into this, it's not going to be me trying to bash anybody. It's not going to be me trying to make fun of people, tear people down. It's just looking at controversial videos, popular videos, seeing what they're getting into, what they're up to, and having a conversation about it and seeing what's up. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, let's talk about this video and I guess get a little bit personal. Girl Defined is a Christian channel. I happen to be a Christian, and I don't ever watch their content, but I do watch God is Great and I watch Mr. Atheist, and they both have had their own interactions with them, their own critiques with them, and so I've seen some of the things that Bethany and Kristen have said. I have disagreed with them with the majority of the things that I have seen that they said, but they could have great points. They could have very valid points depending on the video you watch, because obviously the only way that I've seen them has been when they're being called out by somebody else. But I'm going to try and go into this with an open mind. I don't think that anyone is ever like inherently good or inherently bad. People can be completely wrong about some things and completely right about others. Okay, that's it. I'm done with the disclaimers. If you made it through, you're my type of person because you didn't get sick of me talking before I even got to what the video was actually about. Let's go ahead and get started.
What's up, guys?
What's up,
It's Bethany and Kristen, and I am so stinking excited about this topic. It's something
That sounds like me already. I'm like, oh my god, so stinking cute, so stinking excited.
that is on my mind a lot. I think being married like now just a little over a year.
Still newlywed.
Still newlywed. I feel like it's a topic that comes up all the time. Like people are constantly talking about like, okay, when you're first married, like disagreements, arguments, fights. And the most common thing that I hear is like, okay, when you fight in marriage, when you have that knockdown, drag out. And I'm just like, what is this about? And so I thought it would be really cool today for
that was intense.
Engaged, married, whoever you are, for us to talk about this whole idea of communication, disagreement. Should we fight? Should we get going? Or is there a better way?
Yeah,
I'm very passionate.
yeah, well, it's such a good topic, and I think we can all safely assume that you will have conflict when you get married. Like, that's a given. It's not a question of, well, if you ever disagree on anything, or if you ever, have expectations that aren't met, or if one of them gets mad, or, if you don't see eye to eye on something, it's like, that's gonna happen. That is 100% a given.
So far, I like where this video is going. Like I said, I can't comment on them as a whole, on their whole belief system, their theology. I just can't because I don't watch their stuff. But so far, it's like, as someone who is married, you're gonna fight. And so I appreciate the fact that they're saying like, it's not if, it's when, because you're gonna fight. Not too shabby of a start.
Because we're sinners.
Yeah.
Bottom line, we're sinners, right? And so
Okay.
as sinners, we tend to look out for ourselves first and foremost. We tend to look out for our own needs, our own interests.
Yeah.
We elevate our opinions, our thoughts, our even just perspectives or preferences. That's the word. Our preferences above everyone else's. That's our tendency. I can relate.
I think that's the hardest one for me.
So as a result, you have two sinners that both have that going for them, where we tend to focus on self. Then you get married, and it's like there's clash. It's not going to be perfect. So conflict.
Okay, so real quick about this, about using the term of sinners. We're all sinners. My question is with them, what's the goal of their YouTube channel? If you watch Girl Defined, tell me what it is. Like, tell if you've seen more than one of their videos. Is their channel aimed towards people who are already believers, or is it aimed towards those who are new in their faith? Because I feel like using the term sinner, first of all, it's in-group language. We've talked about it before. It's used intentionally kind of to make someone who understands it feel more included, and it can be really exclusive. Like it can make someone feel excluded if they don't understand it, if they don't use that language. And so if their goal is to talk to people who are already believers, okay, I get it. But if they're trying to tell people who don't go to church already, who didn't grow up in the church, who have no idea about religion, who don't like religion, who are just learning about religion, stuff like that, that type of language is very aggressive. There's a difference between saying, they're not, pointing at you and saying you're a sinner, but that's what it can feel like. And so there's a difference between saying you're a sinner, I'm a sinner, we're all sinners, and saying something like everybody makes mistakes, everybody messes up, everybody has faults. It seems really aggressive to say that.
It happens, then what?
Yeah.
So we have all these options of like, people say fight fair, people say, they have different methods of fighting, or like conflict resolution.
It's mostly referred to as fighting, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, because fighting to me comes across as like, okay, it's gonna be a fight, like who's gonna win, or like fighting fair. I've never heard that term used anywhere else in life in a positive way, and I don't really see it in the Bible. So I love this idea of like more communication and what the Bible says about communication.
And I think that's the bottom line, is there will be conflict, there will be things where you have to resolve, like you have to work through it. And what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? And is there a biblical way to do that? We don't do that perfectly, but I think
we're seeking to.
There's things that we've learned that have helped us kind of go around, like not the fighting method, but actually communicating about really, really hard things in a really healthy biblical way.
How do we do it?
I think the reason I think this is so relevant for no matter which season you're in is because we are all kind of given, in a sense, in life, tools that are in our tool belt. So depending on the family that we grew up in, we may have seen parents who they really did fight. They yelled a lot. They communicated in very unhealthy, unbiblical ways. And we may go into marriage thinking like, okay, that's all I know, or I don't want that, so I'm going to try to do something else. Or maybe we had a really healthy view of communication from what we saw. So no matter where we're coming, into marriage from, or how we're interacting in relationships, we're all coming with a set of like, this is what I know. This is all I have. This is how I communicate. And so the goal isn't to just stay there no matter what season you're in. It's to hopefully put better, more biblical tools in your tool belt. And you can do that at any season. You can learn and grow and actually improve in this area. It doesn't have to be just one way.
And the way you've seen it done doesn't have to be the way it has to continue to be done.
Okay, this is language like this. I'm not gonna like keep pausing every minute, but language like this, I think, is why Girl Defined is such a target for, I don't want to say critique, because some of it is more than critique and it's like making fun of them. But I feel that this is why they're a target, because if you did not grow up happily in a church, this sounds absolutely ridiculous to you. It just does. It's just a fact. Like, talking about biblical tools in your tool belt this season of life, like those are terms that they are obviously very comfortable with and that I can identify and I can understand. And when I hear them, it's not like, wait, what is that? What does that mean? So when they're talking to people who have a good relationship with the church, who grew up in the church, yeah, like that makes sense. That is something that we can understand. But when they're on the internet, they have what, 152,000 subscribers? Thousands and thousands of people are seeing this, and not all of them are going to have the same experience that they had growing up. And so when they hear stuff like that, it's going to sound so odd and so kind of like culty, maybe like clicky, culty. It's going to sound like, why are you talking like that? Nobody talks like that. And so I think that this is definitely part of why they have such a problem sometimes with other people hearing their message and accepting them. They have also said things that are very damaging and that should not be promoted and should not be encouraged. So I want to make that very clear. But with some of the things that are that are maybe a little bit odd to others, but not damaging, not unhealthy, people don't want to listen because it sounds off to them.
So
Exactly.
even if you've never seen a healthy form of communication, whether you're single or married, you don't have to continue that pattern with God's help working in us.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit changing us as we learn truth, as we learn how to communicate and resolve conflict biblically, graciously, in a more selfless way, then we can set a new pattern as we walk into our future relationships. And that's so exciting.
So hope-filled. Like, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. A few things. So we have some great verses to share with you, but I want to share 2 things that have been super helpful for Dave and I, and things that we are trying to do.
Oh, I like
in your heart. And I've talked about these before, but there are 2 things that I think really change the way that I view disagreement, conflict, and it's forgetting quick and believing the best, and forgetting quick in not holding the little things like, I can't believe he said that, and then building it up, being like, I am going to believe the best and forgive this small thing that I feel like offended me or wasn't my preference. So just having that mindset, and some really godly married people had shared that with me, and I admired their marriage, and they're saying, we just choose to forgive quick. We don't hold on to things for a long time. And then believing the best. It's so easy to believe the worst of the other person, their motives, they're probably for sure out to get me. Oh, they don't understand me. Instead of being like, no, I'm going to choose to believe the best in this person. So me trying to implement those 2 strategies has been really helpful. Forgiving quick, believing the best is something that I have to actively work on and pray for because it doesn't come naturally.
Ooh, yeah, I think
I agree with that. It can be very easy to feel like people are doing things because they don't care about you, or they're being selfish, or you don't matter. But it's like, you chose to be with this person, you chose to be in a relationship with them, so why would you not believe the best? Like, if they said something that you perceived as mean, would you say like, oh, they just, they weren't thinking about it, or they didn't intend it that way? Or are you going to be like, wow, they really were trying to roast me, like that? So far this is not horrible, but I don't want to get my hopes up.
The best advice, I don't even know if this is advice, I feel like maybe I learned this more after marriage, but was viewing your husband, and this can work in a sibling relationship, in a friend relationship, in a relationship that you are in, to view the other person not as your competition or the enemy, but to view them as a teammate. And that is something that I have to constantly remind myself of in marriage. That when Zach and I disagree on something, when I have an expectation that didn't go the way I was hoping, or he had one, to not look at the other person suddenly like, how dare you, and to view them as this big enemy that now you're competing against, and now you have to win, you have to succeed by putting them down and getting your way, but rather viewing victory, viewing a win as both of you succeeding, which is good communication, which is having open conversations, which is sharing your heart. Why did that hurt you? Why was that hard for you? Having those conversations, and then at the end of at the end of the resolution, I guess the way that you resolve it is that you're on the same page. You're united once again. You're coming back together as a team and saying, yes, we're pushing for the same thing. We have the same goals. We're in this together. And I know for me, being a very competitive person and a very sinful person, like, I have to remind myself of that all the time. Like, Zach is my teammate. We have the same goals. We have the same vision. So, I have to pray, like, God, help me not fight against him in this moment when I feel really emotional, when I want to be 100% led by my emotions and not led by truth, not led by grace, not led by the Holy Spirit. I have to pray and say, God, help me to view him as my teammate, and let's pull together in this.
Well, and something you mentioned that I just want to say really quick, and then we can talk about these verses, is preferences, because there may be a time, like I know for Dave and I, we don't always...
Before they get a little bit too far, the reason I was shaking my head about, like, because I'm such a simple person is, like, yes, we all have to recognize that we all have areas where we can improve. We all have to understand that none of us are perfect, and whether you are religious or not. Like, if you're not religious, you can just say like, oh, I have faults that I would like to work on in order to be a better person. If you're religious, you can say like, man, I have some real shortcomings. You know, I do things that don't align with my belief or don't align with the expectation that I'd like to hold myself to. And so either way, it's valid to say that no one's perfect, but I just don't think it's productive to continually refer to yourself as a sinner, because that just gives you kind of a negative view of yourself, and I think it can contribute to some pretty low self-esteem and some issues with self-worth.
Land at the same place. Like,
Right.
we're not like, yes, 100% kisses all around. Like, we agree. And I have to remember, like, he has different preferences than me, and I have different preferences than him. So as we're communicating and I realize, wow, he has a different preference, am I so like, it has to be my way and that's like a win? Or can I be like, wow, giving up my, I guess, like, right to have my preference done, like, I can serve him and love him in that way, and he does the same for me. So when two people are willing to give up their preferences, it's not the law, something that's not like necessarily biblical. It's like, it's kind of a gray area, and you have different opinions. I feel like that can be really helpful, being willing to give that up.
And that's in any relationship, right? Any friendship that's thriving,
If you
a
both
marriage that's
compromise,
thriving, any sibling relationship that's thriving, parent-child relationship, it works when you are viewing the other person in a way where you say, how can I serve them? How can I love them? And if they're doing the same for you, that is a beautiful relationship. And rather,
people who aren't Christians are not going to understand what you mean when you say that.
rather than waiting for the other person to lead in that, we can take steps to lead in that and to be that example.
Yeah, exactly. So what does the Bible actually say about communication? Now, this isn't, the verses we chose aren't like a step-by-step guide, like 1, do this, 2, do this, which would be
I always get nervous when people want to quote the Bible because, 1, context plays a very large role, and 2, the Bible wasn't originally written in English, shockingly enough. So if you're bilingual, you know that you cannot get a perfect translation or a perfect interpretation between two languages, especially when it comes to something that intense and that long, that important, like these big life lessons from the Bible. Some things are going to be off from the original language, and so I hope that I continue to not hate this. Sorry, not hate. I hope that this doesn't disappoint me.
really nice, because then we can pull it out and be like, we must follow the guide.
Yeah, step by step.
But this gets more to the heart, actually.
Right.
And this is the heart of how we should be communicating and what that should be looking like. And I think this should be our prayer. God, help me to communicate in this way. Give me your strength so that I can seek to love those around me. Whether I'm single in a relationship or married, I can love and communicate in this way. One of the first ones that I love is 1 Corinthians 13, the chapter on love, what love really is. And we already know love is a selfless, self-sacrificing kind of love. And
true love.
Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. And I love that the patience, the kindness, and then later on it says it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. So praying that, God, please give me a patient love during this communication. Give me kindness. Help me to not be easily angered. Help me to keep no record of wrongs, not bringing the past into this situation. So that's one I think is a super helpful thing to pray and meditate on and start working on.
And another verse that I love that's been super convicting to me personally is Romans 12:18. And it basically says, if possible, as much as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. And that verse is kind of just right there with conflict resolution, with it's assuming that there will be issues, but as much as it depends on you, as much as you're capable, as much as you're able to pursue peace with others, do it.
Pursue peace with others. This is where I'm going to get irritated. Great verse. Love it. Live by it. Be nice to people. Amazing. But last year, Girl Defined had a conference, and part of their conference was putting a clip of Brenda from God is Grey up on the screen within their conference and prefacing that with people want to assume that they know better than the Holy Bible, they know better than this spiritual word, and they think this because they've had a personal interaction with the Holy Ghost, and so now they think they know what God meant when he inspired the people who wrote the Bible to write his word. And they finished that little, it was the one with the shorter hair. What's her name? I don't know. They didn't introduce themselves. Bethany or Kristen, whichever one it was, said, and when you get people like that, it's like, why even call yourself a Christian? And then they played a clip of Brenda from God is Gray talking about how she came to affirm people within the LGBTQA plus community. So not only do I have a problem with that, but prior to this, Brenda had reached out to them and been like, hey, I know we have some kind of like, we have some disagreements on things. I do critique you in my videos, so I apologize if anything I've said has caused unnecessary hate to come your way. I'd love to chat with you guys. And they wrote back and they were like, yeah, that'd be great. And then Brenda followed back up with them and was like, okay, cool, when can we Skype? They never got back to her. And then they had the audacity to use her video at their conference as someone who they don't believe deserves to call themselves a Christian. And after that, like, Brenda was like, yo, what's the deal? Why would you do that? And they put out an apology that wasn't even an apology and was basically them just saying, like, if you were, I don't even know what the video was. Like, I don't even know what the point of that video was, but they kind of called it an apology, and it really wasn't. I only saw clips of it, of course. I did not watch the actual video, but it wasn't great. So I just think that's interesting that they say, like, live in peace with as many people as possible.
That's what this verse is saying. It's assuming there will be things that come in relationships, and don't rely on the other person to take that first step, to pursue that reconciliation, to pursue that forgiveness.
Yeah.
You take that first step.
You can apologize.
You can control, as much as you're able to, you pursue peace with all people in all relationships. And imagine if we took those steps, if we took that initiative, if we took that leadership, and in humility asking God to help us pursue peace in those relationships that are hard, in those moments of conflict, to be the one who goes back and to say, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? Can we talk about it? And we pursue peace. I think that would radically change our relationships.
Great advice. It would be awesome if they extended that past their personal romantic relationships and into their relationships with others.
Another verse that we chose that we love is Ephesians 4:29, which says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. It's like so many things that just cut right to the heart. Like, only what is helpful according to their needs, that it will benefit them. Like, I know I speak things all the time that don't benefit those who listen. It's, and so when I think of fighting and I think of this whole idea of how we should communicate, to me, like,
before she gives her little explanation, was it helpful for you to tell Brenda why even call yourself a Christian? Because she affirms people who are gay, lesbian, bi, transgender, all of that. Was that helpful of you to do that? Is it helpful of you to basically say that you disagree with her and you don't believe that people within that community can receive salvation and can be loved by your God, your creator? The creator that we share, that loves everyone, that accepts everyone, that has a heart for everyone. Is it helpful for you to say that Brenda affirming them is wrong, and that you don't think, essentially, you don't think that they deserve God's love? Because that's what it sounds like when you say, why even call yourself a Christian, and then put up that clip of her talking about her interaction with the Holy Ghost. Just a question.
this verse just specifically doesn't leave any room for the words fighting. It's like, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. So in a situation where there's conflict, you're only speaking words that benefit the person that listens. They're not unwholesome. Like, that's no name calling. That's not like, you are the worst, whatever. It's
Doesn't
like,
mean you can't share your mind, share your heart, share your thoughts, but you're doing it in a way that is loving.
yeah, and there's such a big difference. You can communicate one thing in so many different ways, and one way can be very peaceable and loving and kind and compassionate, and the other way can be like, I'm going to show you, I don't care what you think,
loving,
like,
kind,
this is
compassionate
to it's like
all people.
There's such different ways to communicate the very same thing. So I think that these three sets of verses, 1 Corinthians 13, Romans 12:18, and Ephesians 4:29, are a great place to start in communicating healthy, biblically, no matter your experience. I want to challenge you and the two of us to make that a more like our heart, and to ask God to change us, to make that the way we communicate with those around us. And then if you're married, with your husband, because that's your closest person, is probably going to be the hardest,
Yes, these are such great verses. So write them down, make them your prayer, and really ask God to open your eyes to maybe relationships currently where you have not had healthy communication. It hasn't been Christ-like, it hasn't been selfless. You've been looking out for your own.
Look, like that's great. Those are great verses. Great intent behind them. Great intent for picking them and sharing them and talking about them. I'm not saying that that is bad or wrong or anything. But, and this is something that I think applies to all YouTubers and all people within the public, like people who share their lives, you're going to be held to a higher standard. Whether it is right, whether it is wrong, you are held to a higher standard than most people are. And so when you decide to put yourself on YouTube and make your brand being Christian, talking about Jesus, talking about living a godly life, you're gonna be held to an even more up there, like an even more elevated standard than even just regular people on the platform. And that's just what it is. And so I think they should really try and be aware of that, and be aware of how they are presenting themselves and how other people see them. And yes, like, don't let the world define you. Live according to Christ, whatever, all of that. Like, not to belittle it, but you know what I mean. 4 months before this video, because this video is from December, 4 months before this video was made is when they did that to Brenda. And so I think these are great rules to follow, and kind of verses to take to heart and consider when you are having a disagreement with your partner or a sibling or a family member or someone that you love and someone that you are close to. But I think it's probably a good idea for them. Like, I don't want to harp on the Brenda thing too much, but I know that, like, I just think it really sucks. Like, I know she was hurt by that, and that's such a sucky thing to do, to say that you're gonna meet with somebody and talk about your not meet with them, but like call each other over Skype and like have a conversation about your disagreements and try to come to an understanding, to say, yes, we'd love to do that. And then to put their video up on your screen at your conference in front of tons of women and basically talk about how that person, they're not a good Christian. They're a bad person, and they're not an example of what a good Christian looks like. I don't want to harp on it too much, even though that's basically what I've been doing. But man, it just sucks. Like, that really sucks. And with them being on YouTube, and the issue with Brenda from God is Gray, like, she's on YouTube as well, I think that I would be able to place more stock in them kind of living as they're claiming to live. And I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying, like, from what I've seen, you can live like that with your partners, but how are you handling your relationships with others? It just makes me wonder. And I think it would be really great if they had contacted Brenda and actually come to a resolution with her before trying to talk about the best way to kind of communicate and resolve issues in a biblical way. That's it.
own interests more, you haven't been seeking to love the other person or to pursue peace with them, and really ask God to show you those relationships, whether it's friendship, sibling relationship, marriage, whatever, and then ask him to give you the humility. I think that's where we have to really swallow our pride and say, God, help me to be humble, to be Christ-like in this, because on our own we can't do it. And then to step into that faithfully and then trust God with the results.
I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, because it's very much on my mind. And I would love to know from you, are there any helpful tips, tools, tricks you've learned in helping you to communicate in a healthy, biblical, Christ-honoring way? If so, leave a comment below letting us know what those are, because I need them. And we will see you next time.
Also, guys, one more thing really quick. So it's coming up to the end of the year, and we are a nonprofit organization, Girl Define Ministries. We are mostly supported by donors, and whether it's monthly donors, one-time donors. And so as the year comes to an end, we have some financial needs, and we would love your support. We would love your encouragement by just giving a one-time gift or becoming a monthly partner. And whether it's $5 or $500, every gift makes a difference. And we need to raise some funds by December 31st. We would love your support. You can find out more info and make a super quick, easy donation at girldefine.com/donations.
Super quick and easy. Okay. Well, I'm kind of just at a loss. That was a 12-minute journey through my emotions. Man, what did you think? Gosh. Okay, so watching it, I'm glad that it wasn't as ridiculous as I thought it was going to be. 1000%, I thought that it was going to be a lot more ridiculous, and I'm thoroughly surprised, and I'm pleased that it wasn't. First part of their video, a lot of great points. Love it. Totally good to have disagreements with your partner. Not every disagreement has to be like a fight. Totally get it. Love it. You know, your parents may have shown you one way of conflict resolution growing up. You don't have to follow it. You can learn new things, learn new coping mechanisms, learn new communication skills, all that. Perfect. The language, like I said, I don't know who their audience is, if it is women who are already like in the church or already in the faith, or if it is people that are not and they're trying to like pull them in. But the language that they're using isn't going to work. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't make people feel welcomed or like they understand what's going on if they did not grow up religious. So depending on who their audience is, they might want to consider that and take this critique, and feel free to switch it up. Take this suggestion, it's free. But then we get to the verses, and the verses are fine. Like, I don't have a problem with them presenting those verses, but I do have a problem with people who talk about like being at peace with as many men as possible and loving as many people as possible, and yet deliberately choosing to exclude or to I don't know that they've actively bashed anyone, but to make it very clear that there are certain people who have done certain things, who behave a certain way or believe things differently than them, and for them to basically say, all those people, they're wrong. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. They can't be believers because we know the truth. And I think not only is it very arrogant, I kind of have to understand that maybe at the same time I'm doing the same thing. And so if this comes off as hypocritical, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be. But I think it's ironic that they're going to say, like, be at peace with as many men as possible while saying that there are certain groups of people that are excluded from God's love. And maybe that's an aggressive way of phrasing it, but that's what I get from some of the things that I've seen them say when Mr. Atheist and God is Gray have talked about them. I've talked about certain issues that they have with the things that they've said in their videos, and especially with them putting a video clip of Brenda up at their conference. So, have a problem with that. I really do. And I don't want to be unnecessarily harsh. I don't know. I'm not trying to like bash them because they're not perfect. I know that no one's perfect. I 1000% understand that. I know that I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody is. But I think that their messaging is a little bit confusing, and if you're somebody who has been watching them and trying to learn about God, learn about this religion, see if it's right for you, stuff like that, hearing them exclude certain people or seeing them have these bad interactions with other people and not trying to make it right, not trying to come to a resolution with them or come to a place where you can say, hey, we disagree, but we have mutual respect for each other and we're going to treat each other well. Seeing them not do that can be very confusing, and it can lead to possibly somebody who had no opinion on God's love or who he loved getting to a point where they're saying like, oh, well, if Girl Defined says XYZ people are not part of this community, they're not included in this, they're excluded from God's love, then I don't have to accept them either, or I don't have to treat them with kindness either. And so I think it's just, I guess the reason that I have such a problem with it is because it goes against my own belief. And so that's a serious thing. In the core of my being, not only do I think that some of the things they say are kind of silly, kind of ridiculous, but at the end of the day, I just inherently disagree with some of the things they've done and some of the things they've said, and that is just my opinion. So they think they're right, I think I'm right, and it is what it is. But this started out really good, and then it got pretty frustrating. What did you think? Have you seen this video? Do you know who their target audience is? If you do, please let me know. And let me know if there's any other Girl Defined video you want me to react to, or if there are any other videos that are kind of popular right now from any other creator that you'd like to see a reaction to, and I will go ahead and do that for you. Thank you so much for watching. While you're leaving that comment, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, that would be incredible. And if you have subscribed already, thank you so much. I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. And with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thanks again so much for watching. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.